104.7 The Cave, KKLH, Marshfield, Springfield. Broadcasting pure classic rock from the Just One More studio in beautiful Midtown Springfield. It's Ned Talk, your local live sports show.
Sports talk for imbeciles. I hate that show.
Now, here's Ned.
Play ball!
We are back for another Monday. They have not kicked us out of the building. They have not changed the locks. We're here. We're talking about sports. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. My name is Joe Westen. I'm sort of the, ringleader of this because I control all the buttons and the faders and everything. But, I mean, everybody's here for you. Ned Reynolds, he's not old. He's collectible. I saw a Ned Reynolds statue at a flea market yesterday. Did you see the picture?
And the collectible is piece by piece, and that's gradually falling apart. Breaking sports.
Uh-oh.
Breaking sports.
What?
Third inning. Yankees, 0. Phillies, 2.
Oh, come on.
Thank you, sports fans.
It's third inning. It's early. Stormy Davis is with us. Stormy, I'm surprised you hadn't bought that Ned bobblehead before now.
I didn't know where it was.
It's over. Well, I can't say on the air. I won't say where it was, but it's at a flea market here in town.
Yeah.
And it deserves fleas, too, let me tell you.
I think it was like $18 or something like that. I think you're worth more than that.
He's worth more.
I've seen other I've seen other Ned Reynolds bobbleheads, and they go for as high as $30.
Now, are you talking about, there are two of them. Are you talking about the older one when I had black hair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mike says that you have exactly the same shirt still that you're in the bobblehead. He said, Mike said
don't doubt that.
Yeah, he did.
Mike.
It was in the group text yesterday.
It's the second shirt that I have, not the first one.
Open Ned's closet. There's two shirts
there.
There's 2 shirts. All right. Friday night, Mitch Holthus was in town, and tell us about it. How'd it go?
It was, in my opinion, I thought a very good show. Anything involving Mitch is going to be good because he is such a class performer, and he is, I can't damn all sports announcers, but for my money, he is probably one of the very few who delves into the workings of his organization at every aspect. Mm-hmm. You cannot ask this guy a question in which he does not have a very good, articulate answer. We asked him some pretty tough questions, and then the audience chimed in at the end with some good, solid questions as well. But Mitch was right there to correctly answer. My favorite one was one that I asked. Not that it was a favorite one, but I said, Mitch, what went through your mind when you were doing the play-by-play and the Chiefs are on the Denver Broncos 4-yard line and down goes Mahomes? And Mahomes doesn't get up. And the doctor down there on the field, Dr. Duvernay Tardif, even the doctor turns away a little bit because he sees the element of the injury, a dislocated knee. And Mitch's answer was, well, once I got up out of the fetal position with my thumb out of my mouth. What a great answer. It was. He is top-notch. Yeah. Very, very nice nice evening. Good food, good camaraderie. Probably had a little over 100 folks there at the Riff. Riff seats more than that, but we had to limit the crowd. Only drawback was that the governor who had planned to be there was not able to attend at the last minute, and that, which was too bad because Governor Parson he's a big Chiefs fan, adds a lot to that. He was with us last year for this event and will be, I'm sure, next year. Because by next year, COVID-19 hopefully will be history.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Stormy, what was your favorite part of the evening?
The whole thing was just, it's fun to just hear Mitch tell the stories, and, Ned always asks great questions, but the connection between Mitch and Art really comes out in this type of an atmosphere, and you hear from both these guys, and they'll sometimes bring up stuff on there they don't always necessarily talk about on a Chiefs broadcast as well. And so those are the fun pieces. And then, of course, just having Mitch respond to the audience and just being able to, like Ned said, pop out these great answers and give you all the info you're ever going to need to get the Chiefs. You can sit there on the app for a month and you wouldn't get the info you get out of Mitch in one night.
Now, we did have some Chiefs news today. As far as broadcasting goes, Kendall Gammons will no longer be with the Chiefs broadcast.
Actually, we made that revelation the other night.
Well, okay, I wasn't there.
Now,
so
see, now,
you just
Joe,
got to throw that in my face, don't you?
Joe,
just got to throw that in my face.
No.
You just blew your cover now, Joe. You just blew it. Yeah, it's going to be the former split end for them, who we have had, in a former life, who we used to have on. Kid out of the University of Iowa who is very, very good. Came down here quite a bit for Missouri Valley Conference broadcast and telecast, and he'll do a very good job. Very articulate guy, and he'll blend in well. Now the sideline announcer, I don't know. He's somebody from their flagship station up there, which is, I think, called the Wolf, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
Is that what it is?
And Art Haynes will be back on the desk before and after and during the halftime and everything, and that's great to have him. Good, familiar voice in there.
Thanks for spoiling that for me, Stormy.
Sorry.
You just want to do the show? You want to take over the show from here?
You got to play it cool now. You got to play it cool. But you just told everybody you weren't there without telling them that.
I didn't go because I had a previous engagement that I needed to be involved in.
And that's fine.
I needed to be involved in. So.
That's also my excuse too.
That's one that Ned uses all the time. Hey, Ned, want to go have a drink or something? No, I've got a previous engagement I have to be involved in. So I borrowed that from you.
Wait a minute. The invitation didn't involve drinks because there's never a prior engagement when that happens.
If I invite you to my house, there will always be drinks because my wife always.
When did I turn you down?
Halloween. We always throw a Halloween party, and you didn't come for the Halloween party. Our social, you're getting our social calendar here on the radio.
I wonder why I did not go. There had to have been some.
Yeah,
a date at the bar. Or something.
I have no idea. Who knows?
Stormy was there.
Oh yeah, nice time.
Josh and John were there. Yeah,
I promise you, if the invitation's extended this year, I will be there.
No, it was fun. It was fun. The food was good too.
Let's talk about sports. I'm excited because baseball's back. You mentioned you alluded to the fact that the Phillies and the Yankees are playing right now, and you also alluded to the fact that the Phillies are temporarily winning. But did you watch any of the games over the weekend?
I watched, yes. On Saturday night, I watched the Yankees-Mets. And the Yankees are just clearly a superior team to the New York Mets. They're good. They're very good.
Yep.
They have the long ball. What they beat the Mets by last night, 6-0 or something like that. Interestingly enough, too, and that's what I liked about Dana Hughes, the guy who is joining the Chiefs broadcast team. He's a former Iowa baseball player as well, Jersey kid. And he loved baseball, and when he told me that, hey, you're one of us, buddy. This is great. Watching the Yankees play, but I'll tell you who impressed me more was the Chicago White Sox. They spotted the Cubs a 2-0 lead last night at Wrigley Field, either 2-0 or 3-0, came back and beat them 7-3. Now, again, understand these are exhibition games leading up to the opener this weekend. But the fact is the White Sox had some big-time power on that ball club. How good their pitching is, that I don't know. But in terms of their hitting, it's a club that has big offensive weapons.
Let's talk about the ambiance. I don't know if they did it at the Cubs White Sox.
They did it at all of them.
They piped in crowd sounds. What was your feeling with that?
We do a little TV bit that'll play a little bit later on tonight between 9 and 10 over on KYCW. And that question was also posed to me. It doesn't offend me in any way, but I don't necessarily like it. If you're going to have a situation in which you have artificial circumstances, artificial sound, artificial cutouts in the back, that doesn't resonate very well. Again, it doesn't turn me off from the game because I'm there to view baseball and love the game and watch all the subtleties that go into playing of the game. But I just don't think it's necessary. It doesn't bother me to the point where I'm going to turn it off, but I would prefer they didn't do that, in my opinion.
Did you watch any?
I watched a little bit yesterday, and I've got to admit, the crowd noise was okay to listen to, but if you ever got a good shot of the stands and you're sitting there thinking, okay, there's nobody there, a little confusing. But I tell you, one of the things that's going to help is going to help the players on the field because they are used to being in these games and having that noise. And even though you can zone it out to a certain effect, you're going to get the power of it there. And so it's part of the game to them out on the field. So I can see this being a very healthy thing psychologically for the players out there.
In that regard, you have a very good point. And were you there, Stormy, when we asked Mitch about that very thing.
Yes.
And remember what he said? He said these players, identify very strongly with the crowd, and they draw their emotion from the crowd.
Yeah.
My question was posed because the Chiefs have said they'll sell between 20 and 30,000 individual game tickets, and the individuals who have season tickets, depending on the seniority, will have the right to pick those games that they want to go to, and it'll go down in a gradual order. But still, when you're talking about 78,000 fans and only going to allow 25 to 30,000 in there, that limits your number greatly. Does it limit the noise? No, because the noise will be certainly not in the volume that it was. But Mitch said, hey, these players draw a lot of what they do and a lot of momentum and incentive from what the fans do. And I think that probably holds true for baseball. It certainly holds true for basketball because of the close proximity of what you do, and the same with hockey. Hey, the fans, we've talked about this even when the negotiations are going on. The fans don't figure into the negotiations, and Scott Bales said no, they do not. But you have a circumstance like this, and you watch some of these games that are played in the regular season now for baseball without fans there, you're going to see how big a difference that makes. And I think it'll be a very pronounced difference and not necessarily a positive one. Is it going to affect the games? No, probably not. But by the same token, it is going to affect how they're accepted by the audiences around the country and by the players and by management itself. You can't exist without some kind of audience.
25,000 fans. That's like double a Chargers game in Los Angeles.
Well, actually, it was full house. That's a full house for the Chargers.
Full house for the Chargers.
That soccer stadium, I think,
scary.
sat between 25 and 30,000, somewhere around there. But any of them are going to beat the New York Giants and the New York Mets. I'm sorry, the New York Jets. New York Giants and New York Jets. They announced today no fans. No fans for any of their home games. Now, how in the world is that going to work?
I don't know. I saw just a blurb on the screen that Sean Payton said he didn't feel like there was any way that football camps could start on time. I think the NFL's been in this really good position, but now time's creeping up on them, and they're going to have to, actually deal with something here.
Well, they already have, in a way. They sent down their protocol today, and the Players Association, NFL Players Association, agreed to it. And that protocol is that for the first 2 weeks of training camp, everybody, players, coaches, and key individuals who are directly involved with the team will be tested every day. That's every day for 2 weeks. If the results are good, then the testing will drop back a little bit, maybe twice every week or whatever. I don't know what that'll be. But they did make that, and that's an agreeable term. The one that I find particularly interesting is the one exhibition game. And I don't think the players have decided on that yet. They don't want any.
Right.
They don't want any exhibition games at all. The NFL said, how about one? On the week of August the 27th, all teams would play one exhibition game. Well, the problem you run into there is who gets the home game. Now, keep in mind, players in exhibition games only get their per diem. They're not paid for that at all. Any money that's collected is, I guess, by the clubs, or maybe some is given back to the league or whatever. Well, I've got the answer to it. This is Ned Reynolds babbling on. But if there's an argument as to who's going to be the home team, don't have a home team. Play it a barnstorming game just like they used to do years ago. For instance, the Chiefs, I don't know who they play on the 27th, maybe Dallas?
Dallas, I think, was the game.
All right,
that one.
let's have the game. Let's have the
Springfield,
game.
Missouri, let's just throw that out there.
No. Faroe Field, Columbia, or what would be a good state? Well, the University of Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin, something like that. A barnstorming area where a limited number of fans can get a chance to see the game. They used to do that all the time.
Yep.
That's how the NFL had its exhibition games. And, gosh, my brother and I saw one in Princeton, New Jersey, of all places, the Giants and the Eagles in an exhibition game. But now, of course, under the season ticket plan, they have them in their stadia. Well, again, you run into a ticket problem there. So have this one at a neutral site, barnstorm them, and have the general audience give them a chance to see a team that they might not ordinarily have a chance to see. I think that's your answer if they being the players, accept a one-game exhibition season.
You know what? Every once in a while, you come up with a really good idea.
And that was a damn good one.
That was a good one. We like
really
it.
was.
We like it. I would love it, you know?
What do you mean every once in a
The
while?
Chiefs and the Cowboys at JFK. Wouldn't that be a game, huh? Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you.
Or Orville Pottinger Stadium.
How about it at the Plaster? Because that's about the number of fans you're going to be able to get in there, about 20, 25,000.
Well, that would pack the house, though, and I think that kind of defeats the purpose of the whole idea that they wanted to do with that.
You'd have to
isn't
socially
it?
distant over there, so it'd have to be about 10,000.
We are looking for your phone calls. The number is 863-7104. It is Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
Ned is in the house.
Ah, welcome back to the happy circle.
It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
Yep, it is Ned Talk. We are 104.7 The Cave. It is little sports talk for your Monday night. And Ned Reynolds, Stormy Davis, and I are in the studio. And we're joined on the phone
Some geek.
by a first-time caller, longtime fan. What is your name, sir?
Long time listener, first time caller. This is Mike the intern.
Mike the
Big fan of
intern.
you guys.
How are you?
Fan. Pretty good. Just wanted to call in with a couple comments. First, if memory serves me correctly, Ned's got 2 shirts.
It is 3, Holmes.
He's got 3 now. He's got his
Three.
Ned Talk shirt now.
Well, yeah, we need to get him a 3rd. Secondly, the best story from Friday night was, and I'm surprised I hadn't heard him tell this story before, but I guess after, and this is coming from Mitch, after Coach Reed had kind of, did the college thing and obviously been an assistant coach for multiple NFL teams, finally gets hired, and every year the owners and staff, or I'd say the owners and head coaches go to a resort somewhere, and they all kind of spend a weekend going over problems, rule changes, what they'd like to see, et cetera. And he said he was, the rookie coach, so no one in the room was giving him time of day, and we've all been in that position. He said he's kind of just sitting there by himself, and all of a sudden this guy walks up to him and says, "Son, I've been watching your career closely, and I think you'll do wonderful things in the NFL." And that man was Lamar Hunt. And so he said that years later, when all the teams are courting him, that thing stuck in his mind, and one of the reasons he came to Kansas City. So let that be a lesson to you. Be nice to people, even the rookies.
And to back that up a little bit more, too, Mike, I'm having to recall, when the Chiefs did make their coaching change and Andy Reid became available, I think he was out of work for about 25 minutes, or something like that, because it was almost an instantaneous agreement.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you, sir,
very.
for your phone call. We really appreciate it.
We'll leave you with this. One thing I was reading before I left today was that the Kansas City Chiefs are one of the 3 teams in the NFL that I guess the players are cool with their whole COVID plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good news.
It is.
That's good news.
It is, and I think that's probably the Philadelphia Eagles would be one of them too, because they're cool guys too.
Oh, listen to that. Listen to that.
All
Are
right,
the Yankees
Holmes.
beating the Phillies yet?
I beg your
Are
pardon?
the Yankees beating the Phillies yet?
2-0 Philadelphia.
Still,
in
okay.
The,
Okay.
Hey,
All right.
Mike, see you tomorrow, man.
All right, we'll talk to you
guys,
tomorrow.
have a good show. See you.
Oh, thanks for Mike the intern calling. It's always nice to hear from him. I haven't talked to him in the last 30 minutes or so. Oh, we have another phone call right now, and it's from Steve. Steve, hello. How are you? You're in Springfield, and you had a couple of things you wanted to ask Ned.
Yeah, good to hear you on the air again, Ned. I enjoy listening to you, and I will say this: Ned has had a good idea once in a while for probably over 50 years.
When you're on a 50-year winning streak, one every 50 years, you're doing great, Steve.
Right. You guys were Ned, you were mentioning barnstorming these NFL exhibition games. I remember years ago, I'm from St. Louis, when the St. Louis Football Cardinals were there, and they were having every year they'd have an exhibition game for the Governor's Cup with the Chiefs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, they just couldn't get it together as far as either place, so they played in Memphis.
That was one time, I think, because in the later years, Steve, they did juggle between Kansas City one year and St. Louis the next. They went back and forth, but they did have it in Memphis one year. That is correct. I'll tell you, I'll update you even further. I believe I'm correct on this one. Before they moved to St. Louis, or maybe the year after they moved from Chicago to St. Louis, they played an exhibition game against the Toronto Argonauts. half the game was Canadian Football League rules and half the game was NFL rules.
Oh, that would have been cool to see.
I think
Been a little confusing.
The NFL, I think the Cardinals won that game. That was one. There were several little intricacies involved with other teams as well. But, yeah, that did happen.
And
I
Steve,
bet that was wild, too.
Absolutely it was.
and you had something else you wanted to say, too.
Yeah. I wanted to ask Ned about, we have a 60-game shortened baseball season, and I know you were just bragging on the Yankees because I don't know if you were able to see that game with the Mets or anything, but I would think you're right. Clearly, they're a better baseball team than the Mets, but I'd like to know who his picks would be to get to the World Series this year. It's kind of a crapshoot, but I'll throw mine out there. And it's all about pitching. And, Ned, you know as well as I do over the years, pitching is everything, especially when it comes to the playoffs. But I think Tampa has really got a good shot at getting to the World Series this year because of their pitching.
Tampa has such a good shot that they were able to let go of this Liberatore kid who is one of their top prospects, and he's with the team down here, the taxi squad now with the St. Louis Cardinals. He's a lefty, and if you can afford to part with a guy like that who is a very high-caliber draft pick, then you do have a good pitching staff. And, Steve, you're absolutely right. The Tampa Bay Rays do have an excellent pitching staff and a pretty doggone good team. But picking two World Series teams in a 60-game schedule is a virtual impossibility, not because picking them is difficult, but because you don't know how teams are going to get how they're going to structure their attack. This is a sprint and not a marathon. You've got to go all out. Pitchers who might necessarily have a 5 or 6 day layoff between starts, they're going to go every 4 days now, all your top pitchers. So it'll be a whole lot different. In the Central Division, in the American League, I would pick the Chicago White Sox from what I've seen as the American League Central, and either Cincinnati or the Cardinals, one of those two. I don't think the Cubs didn't show me a whole lot in playing last night. Of course, it's only one game. But those two I would pick as far as the Central playoff teams are concerned. In the West, boy, you've got to go with the Los Angeles Dodgers in the National League. And I'll tell you, watch out for the Los Angeles Angels. They have a very, very nice baseball team. Of course, you never sell the Houston Astros short either. They could be right up there and challenging as well. And in the American League East, we'll go with the Yankees in the American League. And my producer's going to take my head off if I pick against the Yankees. And in the National League East, come on. Is there any other team beside the Philadelphia Phillies? No, I'd have to go with the Washington Nationals. They're a loaded ball club, as is Atlanta. They are very good ball clubs.
Well, one of the groups out in Vegas has got the two best odds maker teams to make it are the Dodgers and the Yankees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but consider now that when that poll came in and when those bets came out, that was on a 162-game schedule. This is a 60-game schedule. And I really think it would be wasted money, or wasted chocolate chips in this case, to put any bets on anybody because it is totally uncharted territory.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate your phone call.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Steve, thanks for listening to us, man.
Thanks, Steve.
We have just so much more sports to talk about. I can't wait because just talking to Steve brought up a couple of ideas that I wanted to discuss with you, but we'll get to all that in a minute. If you've got a call for us, give us a call. The phone lines are open right now, 863-7104. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
Ned is in the house.
That's right, buddy. The band is back together.
It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, your local live sports call-in talk show. All said really slowly so everybody could understand what we do around here. I wanted to talk to you, Ned, because we were talking about how baseball is going to be a sprint this season, 60 games. And one of the announcers last night pointed out that you really can't afford to have a bad week. You can't afford to get off to a bad start. And case in point, World Series champions last year, Nationals, after 60 games, 22-38. Cannot do that this year. So what do you think that's going to mean for baseball? What do you think that's going to mean for managers and managerial decisions and GMs? What's your thoughts on that?
Altogether different handling of all the teams. Altogether different. And you're right. I didn't remember them being 22-38, but I did remember them being 19-31 I did remember the Nationals being that bad. And they come back to win. But that's 162 games. Absolutely could not do that now. So what they will do, like I was mentioning to Steve a while ago, I think you're going to see your starting pitchers who might ordinarily get a 5 or 6 day layoff between starts, they're going to be pitching every 4 days. And I think your injury factor is certainly going to be greater because you're not going to have the luxury of giving these players, your top-line players, some time off. Now, having said all that, the universal DH is allowed in both leagues, and that will be a help to some of the star players. Certainly add some offense, I would think, maybe to certain elements of the National League. But the fact is that it's going to be an altogether different level, different managing techniques, different strategies, different substitution levels. There was one proposal that I think was turned down about having.
Breaking news right now: the NFL has offered 0 preseason games.
All right, that's the final. Union. That's the final bone. I'm glad you threw that in there because earlier today it was 1.
Just came across.
And well, the players don't want any.
Yeah, so that's what they've offered right now.
If that's the case, then I think the players will accept the entire protocol situation because if the NFL went from 1 game to no exhibition games, that's exactly what the players wanted. Players to say, okay, if you're playing ball with us, we'll play ball with you. In terms of the baseball, though, I forgot what I was going to say. No, it was how the teams are going to be handled. And indeed, that's why they have this taxi squad. And it's all the teams have them. And the Cardinals taxi squad down here, certainly not all, but some of the key players I wouldn't be at all surprised to see called up during August or September, especially if there are any injuries. But if somebody gets off to a slow start, heck, you have the Gorman kid down here who's a tremendous player.
Yes.
You have your number 1 draft choice down here, the Walker kid from Georgia. He's a good player. Now, probably not ready yet for the big leagues, hadn't even played minor league ball yet. But again, this is an altogether different circumstance. We have never seen this before. This is uncharted territory.
Do you see maybe the possibility of some players getting off to kind of a bad start and then saying, you know what, I'm just going to bail on it? Do you see that as happening?
Opt out?
Yeah.
I think if they do that, Joe, unless there is some kind of a circumstance in which they can fall back on and say, hey, I've got somebody in the family or I'm not feeling well or something like that, then they forfeit their salary and their service time. Now, that's before the season started. If after the season started, I must admit I don't know. No, I don't think so. I think once they made that commitment, I think they play it all the way through. And I think you're seeing the vast majority of players, like Scott Bales told us the other night, these guys are there to play baseball.
Yeah.
They're not there to opt out. The ones who have are individuals who have a legitimate reason. They all have legitimate reasons, of course, but these are guys who really feel strongly about what their circumstances are. Ryan Zimmerman, for instance, those are guys who fall into a category in which, hey, you have individuals at home who could be affected. So it does fall into a certain level of circumstance in which you have to have some understanding. And given that option, yes. But once they've started, I think probably they wouldn't allow that unless there's a mitigating injury or family circumstance of some sort.
There's so much that's going to be going on with the season that we've never seen before and we haven't ever experienced. Do you have any predictions for anything that you think might come out of the blue that we might see?
The only one that has haunted me as a longtime follower of all the sports is a season being halted before it's over. I hope to the good Lord above that does not happen, and I just can't imagine it will. But I also can imagine that it might, especially in football. Now, the baseball one, how you're going through August and September, and you're ending it in September. If, and again, this is all if, the circumstances are such that we're having a second wave. We may be having that second wave already.
I heard some doctors say it's not been a wave; it's just been a continual
thing,
thing too.
But that would be my worst. That would be the nightmare if you had to halt the season.
Stormy had some good news, though. You were talking about the testing that they've done on the NBA earlier.
Correct. And in the bubble where they called it their bubble, where they're keeping the players and everybody else, 384, I believe, tests came back all negative, so nobody has tested positive within that realm. So to me, that tells the other leagues that says, okay, if you're going to play football, if you're going to play baseball, you keep your teams in check, you keep your players in check, players keep each other in check, and keep within amongst ourselves. We're not going to go out and do no wild parties just because we won this or that. We need to stay in it to win it, and that's going to be a big factor for all of them. And I hope they take some instruction from that and say, this is how we keep it together and this is how we keep playing.
Stormy, the bottom line to what you said is the art of discipline.
Yes.
If you're able to practice discipline in your lives, then you will follow the protocol, follow the guidelines, and everything, if you follow them, should be okay. I heard one expert say the other day, if only the general public would wear their masks for 4 to 8 weeks, then the virus might be halted. Well, okay, I'm not a big fan of the mask, but if that's the case, and that's going to be the result, well then, hell yes, you try it.
I like mask fashion. I do. I'm totally down with the mask fashion. You've got your Crown Royal mask. Stormy, what's your mask?
I've got the Joker still.
Stormy's got several masks. I do too. I have a camo pullover that I like. There's Stormy's mask. It's really good.
I have my Crown Royal, I have my Jack Daniels, and I have my Jim Beam.
He's got a long straw too, by the way. It goes down into a pocket. I don't know what's going on there. I heard a great story yesterday in the Mets-Yankees game. They were talking about a young Mets player who woke up one morning and he said, you know what, I don't feel so good. I got a sore throat. And he followed all the protocol, got tested. He had it, quarantined. So they were applauding him and the fact that he kept the rest of his teammates safe. But honestly, it just takes one guy.
Yes.
It takes one guy to not be disciplined with this whole thing, and you could see a sport halted.
Have to understand how viri works. And I'm not a doctor, not an MD, but I will tell you that every human being has a virus of some sort in his body. Everyone. Mm-hmm. We're all carriers of something. In the case of the COVID-19, well, let's talk about the flu that goes around. Well, there are thousands of individuals who are asymptomatic. That's how the disease is spread. The difference between it and COVID-19, now COVID-19 is a nasty little virus, but there are many who are asymptomatic. Thousands, maybe even millions who are asymptomatic. But the problem is there is no vaccine. There are some good remedies to help with the recovery from it, assist recovery. But in terms of vaccine, rendering the majority of the population immune to it, working on it, and probably, hopefully, getting close. But until that happens, then we're going to have to run into protocol like this. This circumstance has happened before, many years ago, but now we're in 2020, and the science, medicine is so much more advanced now that we can come up with circumstances like this. Thank goodness we can. We have people who are looking out for the betterment of the human being. That's all except the news media, who have done a terrible job, in my opinion. All right.
You're in the news media. Stop it.
No, I'm ex-news media.
Stop it. If you got a question, give us a call, 863-7104. The phone lines are open. Love to hear from you. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, your local live sports call-in show. I'm Joe Westen, Stormy Davis with me, Ned Reynolds. Stormy wants to brag, so go ahead, Stormy. Come on, let's hear it.
You know, there was Caleb Scott was on the show several months ago and talking about the Queen City Insane Asylum football program, and the next day, one of the guys from the Midwest Defenders called Mike the Intern show, and basically exactly what you said. He threw down a good old-fashioned wrestling promo on us, and then this past Saturday we played the Midwest Defenders out at Cy Sports in Nixa, and we somebody got the smack laid down on them, but it certainly wasn't us. Final score 112-14.
112-14. Is there no mercy rule in this?
Apparently not, and I'm not sure Caleb was necessarily interested in one. Or any of the others for that matter. I know I necessarily wasn't, but the good news was that for every point scored by the Queen City Asylum, we raised $7 for Harmony House. We end up with $784
Wow.
to donate to them. So to me, that was the best part of the night. That, and plus we had over 200 people out there watching the game. Everyone was social distancing. Some people had masks on. And just a really great time. And glad to see the team win again. So 2-0 on the season. 6-0 on the year. So we got a bye week next weekend, but then we'll be back out at Cy Sports at Nixa on August 1st at 7 p.m. But yeah, 112 to 14. Let me say that score again after the call in and everything that was done. But it was a beautiful thing.
What's the kicker's name?
The kicker's name is Joshua James.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah. Stormy's the GM for the Queen City Asylum. So sometimes he's got a lot going on in that noggin of his.
Oh,
so sometimes he forgets things. But again, it's August 1st is
August 1st, 7 p.m. out at Cy Sports in Nixa. If you don't know where that is, just take the turnoff like you're going to Summers at the River or where that little go-kart place used to be.
AA, still there. It's still there.
And just turn the corner at a former establishment.
It's not,
we will not name.
I don't think it's former. They cater to gentlemen.
But anyway.
Oh, I thought it was gone.
No, I think it's still there.
No, it's going to be closed for a while until somebody else buys it. I know that.
Oh, okay.
But if somebody does, but yeah, just take the right there and go back into Cy Sports, and down on the left side is where the football field is, and it's a really nice area down by the river, and it's great, beautiful. Turned into a beautiful night.
That's a little creepy. Really nice area down by the river.
I try not to do it that creepy on there, but no. If I didn't mention it already, 112 to 14.
Did you say something about what was the score of that game again?
I believe it was 112 to 14.
Ned, what was the score of the Asylum game on this weekend? Did you hear that?
112.5 to 14.
It might have been.
You have to understand, guys. This is 8-man football, and 8-man football is designed to be very high scoring. Maybe not that much of a rout. But that can happen. After all, the field is reduced. It'll
remind you a lot of arena football for people who've been fans of that, which I got into when I lived in Florida.
Outside arena football.
Yeah, basically.
Without the barriers on the side or anything like that. So, indeed, you do see higher scoring, although that's a rout right there.
That was. But I do want to say, as the GM, I want to thank everybody from the Midwest Defenders who came in. Some of the guys who play on that team played for the Wolfpack. I worked for them years ago, and I know them. So I appreciate them coming out and the families and everything else driving in. And we always appreciate that kind of thing, especially with all that's going on.
When you're finished with your off week, then when's your next game?
It will be 2 weeks, Saturday night, August 1st, 7 p.m. So,
do you play any road games at all?
There will be. It's again, the season is being put together as it goes along because of everything that's going on. What teams are playing, what teams aren't. There are, best of my knowledge, 6 teams, maybe a couple more within the league, and a couple of them have opted out of this season already. So and are also new to the league, so they just haven't really necessarily had time to set up to get ready to play as well. So I think once the IDFL gets set up next year, I've been over their website quite a bit, and now getting used to the rules, changing over from CPFL to IDFL, but there's just a lot to it. They've got a men's and women's divisions in both indoor and outdoor, both 11-man and 8-man. So it's a good organization, and I'm hoping to see it really grow and build up nicely.
Sounds cool. And again, people can participate right here in the Ozarks. Sports.
Queen City Insane Asylum football on Facebook, and come on out there and see what we're all about. Come out and watch some live sports. Not just going to get to see live sports on TV now with baseball, and then the upcoming, of course, basketball and hockey leagues. But now you can go out and see some live football, semi-pro if you want to.
So do you either one of you guys know how basketball is going to work? Are they going to play all the games in that bubble area that they're in?
Yes, all the games will be played in that bubble, and all the hockey will be played in either Edmonton or Toronto.
Yes.
And keep in mind now that the hockey, the Stanley Cup playoffs, doesn't include the Blues in the first round because this is kind of a play-in round. I believe it's best of 5, but I'm not sure of that. That begins on August 1st. Then they gradually move up to the best of 7 if they aren't already in best of 7 to start out with. But the play-in rounds advance, and then you have the Blues playing probably in, I'm going to guess, the second week in August, and then playing right through. And that's going to be the way it works with the NBA, too, as well. The championships won't be decided probably until early October, which is when the training camps would be starting. So the NBA, I know, plans on starting their 2021 season in early or mid-December, and then carrying it through next year in 2021 into late June, mid to late June, somewhere around there. Hockey, I don't know. Don't know what they're going to do with their extended schedule, but they'll have to change as well. And it's the basketball one is interesting because the Olympics is planned for next year too, the 2021 Olympics. And some of these NBA guys have already expressed a desire to play on the USA team. Will they be able to? Well, the answer is no if they're in the playoffs
and
at that time.
Right now, that's not looking real positive. Right now, they're sitting at about a 26% approval rating for the Olympics to go on within the people of Japan.
Boy.
And that's a pretty low figure for the decision makers to have to try to look at and give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But, yeah, the facility in Orlando where they're talking about for the NBA, it's ESPN, Disney kind of owned and developed, and it sits in such a way where they were able to encapsulate it amongst itself and really contain this area for people and still let them do things and get out, but not necessarily interact with people outside the bubble as well.
If they have had no
of
positive tests, that says it all.
None whatsoever.
That's good news, too. There's low positive tests in Major League Baseball. It'll be interesting to see when football comes back.
Yeah, and I'm
what their
hoping it
percentages
does.
will be.
We were talking earlier about there have been, I believe I'm correct in this, there have been 11 states that have dropped high school football for this year, 11 of them. Kansas is one of them. Arkansas and Missouri are not included at the moment, which means that the season is planning on going on as planned, except in California. And in California, they're going to start their season in late December and early January. We can't play football then. Out there you can. The weather is not a factor out there at all.
What if Texas will do something similar, or Florida, because they've had spikes, and I can imagine them pushing it back.
Having high school football
I think
in
they've
Texas
already canceled.
Oh, really?
I think in Florida they have. I saw the list. It's 11 states that have done it, and I know that Mississippi is one, Louisiana is one, and I'm thinking Florida is probably also included in that group.
I can see Texas moving it to spring, but I can't see them doing a school year without high school football in Texas. It's just such a staple.
They were talking yesterday while I was watching the game that, one of the things with baseball dealing with is the moving back and forth between Canada and the United States with Toronto. And Toronto, the government in Canada said, no, we're not going to let you do that. So it'll be the Buffalo Blue Jays this year.
Have they made a decision?
That is what I've heard.
I think it's final.
I would think that would be the logical move because, after all, Buffalo and Toronto aren't very far away from each other. Not that it makes any difference with the fans. They can't go anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So
true.
But from an identification standpoint and a television standpoint, Buffalo would be. Dunedin, Florida, which is where the Toronto Blue Jays train, that is OUT. You can't no, not with the COVID virus spiking as much as it has.
Yeah, I just it was kind of interesting, all the changes that are being made. Some of them I'm a little excited about because just a little difference here and there makes things a little more interesting to see how things are going to go. And I'm really excited to see the 60-game sprint.
Yes.
Because it should be really interesting to see how teams are managed and how things move forward from here on in.
Do we have a World Series between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Seattle Mariners? It could happen, guys.
It could happen. Yeah.
And I've brought this up time over time, but I think that's kind of a beauty mark on this thing is that we may end up seeing something really outrageous and outstanding out of this thing, possibly. It's certainly going to be memorable, one way or the other, but I'm excited. I mean, after reading some of the stuff I'm seeing today in a lot of different aspects of sport, I'm very excited about the possibility of what could happen.
See, you're looking at it from the glass half full.
You bet I am.
I'm not.
We've had enough glass half empty this year.
Well, that's just it. We've had so much glass half empty that I look at a different situation. Keep in mind the negotiations for a new contract will be ongoing in 2021. The plan that's probably going to be introduced that I like is to have Major League Baseball in halves, just like they do with the Texas League down there. I think that's a great idea.
Beautiful idea.
Isn't it John Smoltz came up with, was one of the proponents of that idea?
He was indeed. Smoltz did offer that because he'd seen what it does in the minors. You start all over again. If you had a rotten first half, hey, okay, we were bad. We're going to get better here in the second half and still be a contender. has happened. I think it should happen again. You can alter your playoffs to where there is a legitimate championship going on. Not that there isn't now, but it would make it a little bit more amenable to the public. I would be all for that.
And one idea you came up with earlier, I think, could have a lot of good implications. Is the thought of go back to the barnstorming idea for preseason stuff, and not just in football or baseball, maybe. So
should be
just
good.
An idea.
Some good things on the horizon. We're talking about good stuff. Thank you, Ned. Thank you.
You mean the Roustabout came up with something?
The Roustabout, the collectible. Ned Reynolds. Thanks,
We'll
guys.
have a bobblehead made for this.
We'll be back next week doing Ned Talk. If you've got a question for us that you think of between here and there, you can hit us up on our Facebook page. That's Ned Talk. Until then, we will see you next Monday night, 6 to 7, right here, 104.7 The Cave.